Welcome to Wealth Made Simple with Shaz, where you'll learn how to master your money through business, property, and tax-saving strategies. Your host has collectively helped his clients make tens of millions of pounds in additional profits through these strategic approaches to business. Introducing Shaz Nawaz, an award-winning chartered accountant, property tax expert, entrepreneur, and property investor.
This week on Wealth Made Simple,
We're talking about
good debt and bad debt. And is there a difference?
I don't know. I think debt can be good.
Well, it depends on how you apply it. Now, I will preface this with Shaz and I are not financial advisors, so therefore, everything we say is from our own experiences and from our own points of view. It's not investment or financial advice. Please do
sharing
not.
it for information purposes only.
Yep, sharing for information purposes only. So with that out of the way.
And different people have different view on debt, by the way. Some people have their own personal belief.
Yeah, this is
they
true.
don't want to take on debt. And then there are also other forms of structuring debt. So you've got what people call ethical financing.
Yes.
Also called Islamic financing also, which is still debt, but in a different way. So it's not debt per se. It's more where you have an investor and an entrepreneur who get together. But there is
more like a joint venture.
This is like a joint venture, but there's still money involved, and there's certain responsibilities, and there's certain ways that you share returns. So we're going to kind of include that all in here, even though it's not debt per se, just to keep it really kind of simple.
Yeah,
and we're not, obviously, with all of our shows, as you know, Kieran, we're not endorsing interest or debt or anything else to anybody. And as you know, we always say people need to take their own advice or financial advice from somebody else, and they need to obviously live according to their own values and what they believe. So we're just sharing information on, can debt be a good thing or is it a bad thing? And you always the truth somewhere in the middle, like most things.
Well, I mean, I think the first thing to establish is what is debt? Because it's a word that you probably hear most days. There's, countries' debt. There's, global debt. There's, and I remember when,
Personal debt,
company debt.
yeah.
And I mean,
Financial debt, non-financial debt, emotional debt.
And how does a country, for example, get into debt? They print the money.
That's going to be a long conversation because we can get into quantitative easing and inflation and interest rates and cost of living crisis. That's going to be a long conversation.
It's all right, we've got time. No,
an hour is never enough.
No, an hour is never enough, but we shall try and make it fit. So the question is, good debt, bad debt, what qualifies as good debt? And, clearly the fact that we're doing a show on good debt versus bad debt would, lead our listeners to believe and understand that we believe there is such a thing as good debt that has a positive impact on your life, which for a debt ideal, when you think about what debt is, it's I owe somebody else something. I am indebted to them, whether it's a bank for money, whether it's an individual for emotion or something like that. I am indebted to somebody else for something they have given me.
Yeah, and those people who don't like debt or don't believe in debt, they can just see this as cash flow.
Yeah.
Getting money from somebody else to achieve a collaborative goal, vision, mission, call it what you like.
Yeah. So the first on our list of good debts, as it were, is mortgage debt. Now, the reason mortgage debt is considered a good debt is because you take out, once you've got your deposit together, you take out the balance of the property as it stands at that time. And that's a key point here for good debt, is the value of a property, for example, It's £100,000 at the time at which you purchase it, which means your debt against the property at 75% loan to value would be £75,000. Now, in 10 years' time, you've reduced. If you've got interest only, then that's one thing. If you've got a repayment mortgage, then you'll have reduced the amount of debt you owe on the property. But the key point here is that the property is an asset, and that asset has increased in value generally over the course of that time.
Yeah, but it should have done. Yeah,
it should have done. Yeah, course of 10 years. So your loan to value ratio, by default of the uplift in value of the property, is reduced.
Plus the repayments if you're on repayment. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've had to take out debt to get that property in the first place, but the longer you hold it, the smaller that debt becomes.
If you're repaying it, yeah. Or
even if it's interest only.
Even if you're not repaying it because the value of the property is going up, yeah.
Yeah, the value of the property is increasing. And I think that's, and especially if you're renting it out as a business, then you're also getting cash flow, which is covering the cost of the debt. So it's not costing you anything directly, apart from
as long as you've got somebody in there,
as long as
renting from you.
Yeah. We're ignoring void periods for this point, but so the debt costs you nothing. You've had to take debt out for an appreciating asset, and you're taking some cash flow, and you're getting capital appreciation, which means it's a good debt to have because it benefits you long term.
Mm-hmm. And you can obviously do the same if you've got ethical financing or Islamic financing, where you borrow money from a bank. They own part of a property with you, and as you make those repayments every single month, then you are taking more ownership of a property over a certain period of time.
Yeah,
so that works too. Same thing in a different way.
Yeah, same thing,
and
different
it's not
ratter.
Interest per se, but whether you want to call it debt or not, it is debt in a roundabout way. Just keep it simple.
Just to keep and this is like we said earlier, just an overview. It's not a deep dive, or anything like that. So after that, I've got on my list student loans.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, why is a student loan considered good debt?
Well, it helps you get through your studies to some extent.
Yep.
And get a qualification at the end. Usually ends up being a bachelor's degree, but it could be something else. And it's got you somewhere, then you're in a position to be able to, or you're qualified to apply for jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
and then you've got income coming in, and you can pay off. But I'd say that's good debt and bad debt.
See, the reason I've got it on the good debt list is because if I, for example, wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor or an astrophysicist, all of these.
I thought you wanted to be an undertaker.
Or an undertaker. I don't think you need a I don't know. You might do. But those sorts of.
No, I talk about WWF, the Undertaker.
Not
what you mean?
You mean WWE?
Well, okay.
Showing your age there.
I started. Remember, I still call HSBC Middle Bank.
Yep. But yeah, so any of those sorts of perceived high-end jobs, and I say perceived because obviously with what we've understood, but to be a doctor, you need a doctorate. You need a medical degree. If you had to pay from the start for your education at university without the help of a student loan, we could potentially see far less people coming through the ranks of university learning these sorts of professions because it becomes prohibitively expensive.
Because people who don't have access to money won't be able to get the education.
Yeah.
Those who are well off, wealthy, rich, comfortable will.
Yeah. And
which makes the divide even bigger.
And that becomes unfair.
Yep.
So being able to take that debt on as a student and then garner myself a position as, learning law, becoming a lawyer, learning, medicine, becoming a doctor, these sorts of things, allows me to then enter the workplace as a more valuable individual to generate a higher income. So it benefits me, again, long term. And a lot of these things, and you'll notice a recurring pattern with good debt, is it's not about the here and now. It's about the long-term benefits.
I guess where I was coming from there, Kieran, is two things really. Is every now and then, I told somebody, he says, I've got a student loan and I've not paid it off.
Yeah.
And some of them seem to be pleased about that, by the way.
Yeah.
Which always amazes me. When,
I
annoys me, by the way.
I don't have a student loan, and I've never had a student loan. So I can't attest to this as gospel. But from what I understand, from what other people have told me, is if you haven't paid back your student loan after a period of time, it gets wiped off. Now, I'm happy to be wrong about that, but that is what I've been led to believe.
I'm not too sure. I think it stays there, as far as I know. I had someone I paid it pretty quickly, by the way. Just wanted to. I was grateful for the loan.
Yeah.
And paid it off. But in those days, we also had grants as well. But so some people don't pay off, so it's a cost.
Yeah.
To whoever's underwriting it, in this case, the government in a roundabout way, and the taxpayer. And then, in terms of bad debt, it's people, especially nowadays, the loans are much bigger than what they used to be.
Yeah, they are.
When you and I were younger. And so people are taking on 30, 40, 50,000 pounds, which is like a mortgage. And then they either don't go into a job or the profession they wanted, and 5 years later, they've still got that around their neck, and it just carries on.
Yeah.
So, and I guess that's partly, okay, did they make use of it? What do they do with it? Circumstances, and some people can, some people can't. But they've got debt, and then when they're applying for loans, funding, whatever, so, okay, you've got a student loan, you've already owe 50 grand or whatever, you've not paid anything off. That affects your kind of credit profile.
I also think that
It can be a good and bad thing.
I also think that a lot of employers, and this is a fault of the system, I believe, ask for degrees that are unnecessary. Yeah, I do think there are jobs where experience is better than a degree, in every sense of the word. And there are a lot of employers out there that go, must have degree level qualification. And I look at some of those roles and I go, yeah, but why? Why does, for example, a bricklayer need degree level qualification? No, what a bricklayer needs is an apprenticeship and real world experience, because it's a physical job.
The good old YTS scheme. Or YTS.
YTS?
Youth training scheme.
Oh, youth training. Yes, yeah.
Before your time, you see.
A little bit.
You were born a few years too late, Kieran.
Some people will tell you I was born a century too late, but
and that became an apprenticeship. These things change names
but it taught you practical skills, and I think apprenticeships.
But again, the flip side, Kieran, is people say to you, it's about discipline, it's about commitment, going away, for example, living independently, learning, and then having the ability to be in an environment where sitting down and studying may not be the main priority, if you know what I mean, because there's other distractions, and demonstrating you can do it, demonstrate you're a certain type of individual, would be some people's argument. But I agree with you overall. If you're 18 years old, for example, and you've done A-levels, let's just say, are you better off going into employment, going down an apprenticeship route, as opposed to going to university and then being burdened with all that debt that we're talking about and the rest, versus getting a job and getting experience? Now, of course, if you want to be a doctor, dentist, and certain other professions where you have to have a qualification, totally understood. But for the majority, no, because a lot of people that have met and meet, Kieran, who are at the top of their game, okay, or the food, call it what you like, don't have a degree.
No.
Go figure.
Well, I mean, famously, Elon Musk does not have a degree. One of the richest men in the world. I don't know if he's still the richest man. Might be. But anyway, does not have a degree.
Yeah. But he's a slightly different story. He was there and then chose not to. But most don't even go there.
But his response was, when asked about his degree or lack thereof, no, I don't have a degree. But the people who work for me do. Well,
from Harvard, Yale, so on and so forth, MIT, whatever. Yeah.
Exactly, and they're the ones They are the ones doing the direct work. He's owner of the company. He's CEO.
He's right.
And he's right. But he recognises that some people need practical experience and practical work. Other people, for different roles, you want to learn rocket science. Chances are you need a degree. You're not going to do that
unless you're Elon Musk.
Yeah, he pays people. He pays people with Yeah. But do you know what I mean? Things like that. But you want to do, for example, what I do on a day-to-day basis. There are degrees out there that can teach you some of that. But I guarantee you that experience matters more in a live environment. And that's just the truth of the situation. So, I mean, I see what you're saying. Student loans, good and bad.
Yeah. Same with mortgage to some extent, because if you can't keep up your payments and things go wrong and you go bankrupt and blah, blah, blah. So anything can be good or bad. As you know, there's no such thing as good or bad. It's based on perspective.
Yes.
But now we're going down the world of ethics and morality. So let's get back to good or bad.
Let's get back, bringing us back on track nicely. Business loans for growth. Small businesses often don't have the cash flow straight away to invest in technology or get started in new markets or things like that.
Invest in marketing or buy new equipment or upgrade equipment or buy a larger premises.
And if you take out a small business loan, for example, and then you can then afford to do those things, you can see, and you use that money strategically and sensibly, you can use that money to grow your business to bigger, better things.
And you employ more people, you make more profit, you pay more tax, you spend more money with your suppliers. It's a win-win, isn't it?
You use it to add processes and streamline your structure so that everything is about cash flow and working for you rather than against you.
And you add a huge amount of value to the local and national economy. Maybe even international if you're working abroad.
Exactly that. And so there's always that. Alongside that, investment loans, borrowing to invest in income generating assets. We kind of touched on that with mortgages, but mortgages aren't quite mortgages. You can have a mortgage for your own home, and that's still a growing asset versus an investment loan. Which
is it good debt though to have a mortgage on your own home, or is it better to rent? We're talking about debt here and renting.
We will do a show. I know we've discussed it previously on other platforms, but we will do a full deep dive on. Actually, could you sell your home that you currently have a mortgage on and use that to finance?
You have enough equity, Start a business venture.
Start a business venture.
No debt. Rent your house. Rent the house that you're going to live in, or rent a house, and then get your business to obviously fund the rent. We're good to go. And that, especially for people who say, I don't want any loans or debt or interest,
Could be.
Here's a good solution.
We'll take a look at that on another show in more depth. And the thing with investment loans is it also encompasses not just things like rental properties, but like stocks and shares, blue chip investments, stuff that you can actually get an actual ROI on, return on investment, for the amount you put in.
A JV partner, because you can use those funds and
to invest in others.
And if let's say you're paying 5%, for example. It doesn't matter what the rate is, and then you give somebody, and you can borrow 100 grand, and you give that to somebody, and you do a 50-50 JV, and you're going to earn 50% of a particular transaction, and you're paying 5% to the bank, and the 50% should be, in this particular example, more than the value of the 5%, you're quid in.
Yeah, you really are.
You've got to fund the 5% while the 50%
Is coming back because all these things take time.
crystallizes, but it works,
And
isn't it?
it's potentially possible. So yeah, so that's
So that's what banks do, don't they?
yeah, that's
Borrow
exactly
money
what
from the
banks
money
do.
market and pass them on.
Yeah. So that's a brief overview of good debt. So now, what do we consider bad debt? Aside from some people say all debt is bad debt, but
What do you mean we?
you and I, between us,
Oh, we're a team now, we?
we've always been a team, have we not?
Oh, you must have thought we have different views here.
We are allowed different views.
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought I was good cop and you a bad cop. Has that changed?
Why am I always the bad cop?
I don't know. I just always thought I was Luke and you were Darth Vader. That's what we were talking about on the way here, weren't we? Or
I mean, I'll
have
take
we,
that.
Have we changed roles and you want me to be Darth?
Absolutely not. I
No,
will.
there
I
you
will
go.
happily
Yeah.
take on the role of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm only doing what you wanted, Kieran.
and I appreciate you all the more for it.
There you go.
Which is nice. So bad debt is generally debt that doesn't serve you in any way, shape, or form.
And anything can be bad debt if it's not used properly.
Yeah, and that
Like
that's,
bounce back loans, and we were with the horror stories where people took
Yeah.
loans and bought a car for themselves, went on a holiday and went on some kind of a binge somewhere, and one's nowhere to be soon, they can't pay it back,
and then it all goes horribly
and it's
wrong.
costing us money,
Yeah, it is.
the taxpayer.
We will talk about bad debt. So, some people say all debt is bad debt, as we touched on earlier, but any debt used irresponsibly is, I would say, bad debt. So the question is, what defines bad debt overall? Money that you are given that you have to pay back that you use irresponsibly. Yeah, I would say that classifies as bad debt.
Sometimes it's situational, isn't it?
It is.
Somebody has a credit card and they've got a job and they're doing okay, and then they get laid off, and now they've maxed out their credit card and they owe £5,000, and they charge them whatever, let's call it 25% interest, and before you know it, they can't pay it off. And everything was fine 4 years ago when they got that card, and now it's become bad all of a sudden.
Yeah,
But generally speaking, and apart from those situations and circumstances, or when a business deal goes wrong, somebody buys some equipment and they've got 2 or 3 good contracts, and then all of a sudden those contracts disappear, either those companies go bust or something changes, and now they've got the equipment and they've got not many clients left or customers left. They can't keep good those repayments, all of a sudden it becomes bad. So apart from those situations, and no one knows the unknown or what's going to happen in the future, I think generally what we're talking about is when you take money and you don't use it in the way that you said you would do, or utilize it in the best way that you should have done.
Yeah, like, for example, consumer credit card debt. I consider that bad debt. Now, you can use consumer credit card on, those 0% cards to pay for things like education and stuff like that. And then it becomes in that middle ground of maybe it's good, maybe it's bad.
Yeah, but the offer is 0% because they know the majority aren't going to pay back in time.
Yeah.
And they're going to make money.
And if you can then,
But if you're disciplined enough,
use whatever you've paid to make it back,
go for it.
Fill
your boots.
But in generally, accumulating high interest credit card debt for non-essential purposes,
Bad idea.
And that's the key thing. And we remember being told once that I would rather...
Only once?
Well, I was told by someone, I can't remember who, I would rather pay twice as much for something when I can afford it than pay half as much for it when I've got to put it on debt. And when think about that, that's
old school
really
thinking,
strong.
but it makes sense.
Yeah, something costs £100, for example, and it's in the sale. It's £50, but I've got to put it on debt, and that's going to cost me 25% on debt each month.
And half the time, it's on 50 quid. I don't need it, but I'll buy it because it's cheap.
Yep.
And then you don't use it anyway.
But later on, when I've got the money because I've invested smartly, I've been sensible with my money. It's now £200 because inflation and all the rest of it. Okay, well I can afford it now. I don't mind paying the £200. Oh yeah, but a year ago, Kieran, it was £100. Yeah, but I couldn't afford it at £100. I couldn't afford it at £50.
It's discipline, isn't it? Wealth is all about discipline.
It is, yeah. And that's the thing, a lot of it. And I mean, the other thing is, and this does fascinate me and scare me in equal measure, is I have a credit card and I've had it since I was 18. Someone agreed to let me have a credit card at 18.
Oh, and those people used to be naive, especially those bank managers and all those systems.
No, they weren't naive. They know what 18-year-old. But I got it for emergencies. Emergencies only. That's what it was for.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
But if somebody gave you a credit card when you were 18, they must have been naive, Kieran. Would you have given yourself a credit card at 18?
Absolutely not.
There you go.
Yeah, that's just crazy talk. But I got this credit card.
You tricked them, you mean?
I did everything above board, and I was honest about everything.
You told them what they wanted to hear.
Isn't that how you get a credit card?
I have no idea.
And so for the first 3 months, I was super disciplined. 18 years old, credit cards for emergency use only.
What you got? Movie, have some popcorn.
Emergency.
On the way there, I'll
use.
have I'll with some food, have a beer or whatever. Yeah, was that one an emergency for you?
Well, it was.
Or in your case, whiskey, not beer.
Just for emergency, and that's how it was always going to stay. Then I met this girl. Wanted to impress her, so we went out for dinner. Well, that can go on the credit card. I can pay that back. It's fine. She's going to be worth it. Turns out,
Of course, you're going to marry her and you take them to your, parents and that good Jewish upbringing that you've obviously had, and your mum and dad were going to be impressed with you.
And then we'll find out that no, Kieran's not that sort of boy. Okay. He's not the forever type. Okay, sorry.
But that's your fault, not hers.
Oh yeah, clearly it was my fault. And it probably was my fault looking back. But I wanted to be the man to impress, and so I spent excessively. Now ask me how I paid that back.
How did he pay it back, Kieran? By getting another credit card.
That initial amount that I spent, and because I'd done it once, it became easier. Everything became.
So well, I remember just put the card on, just chip and pin, or just sign or whatever.
Sign it, yeah. And I paid back the minimum amount.
£5 or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever it was at the time. And I didn't have a huge amount that I could spend on that credit card. But I paid back a minimum amount. And that minimum amount kept getting bigger. Even when I stopped using the credit card, that minimum amount kept getting bigger. And it took me, I want to say, 6 years to pay back what was initially maybe £1,500. Not a huge amount of money by modern standards.
Happens, mate. See it all the time.
But 6 years to show off when I was 18. I was 24 when I cleared that credit card for the first time.
Costly mistake, isn't it?
Very costly mistake.
If you learn from it, it's worth it.
And I still have that credit card. It gets 2 sets of fuel put on it each month, and it gets cleared each month.
You've learned from experience.
That's it. If I want something else at 0% and it's got to go on a credit card because, it's got to, I will put something, once I've saved up the money to pay for something, if I want to pay for a flight, for example, because of the security credit cards offer, I'll put it on the credit card and then pay it back straight away. But I'll save up the money first. So that interest never hits me. That's what I learned from that experience. But consumer credit cards on frivolous things you don't need, like meals out,
avoid if you can.
I can't be bothered to cook tonight. Let's get takeout. I'll stick it on the credit card. avoid if you can, because that,
It mounts up.
in my opinion, it mounts up quickly.
We'll talk about that on another show as well in terms of money discipline and having different pots and jars and bank accounts and managing that.
Sant.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite accounts.
Yeah.
Save and never touch.
Absolutely.
Now, another one is payday loans.
Horrible overall.
things.
I mean, some people might desperately need some money for whatever reason, but generally,
Horrible. When you look at the interest rate on those, it's in the thousands of percent. I don't understand from a personal ethical point of view how you can justify charging someone that amount of interest.
They're desperate and people taking advantage.
It is
on that one, I agree with
absolutely taking advantage of people in bad situations, and I think it's horrible.
It is,
and I think that people should never. I think they should die the same way as the dinosaurs. They should just disappear, be consigned to history. They won't be because people use them. Unfortunately, some people have to. They feel they have to. Because the criteria for getting them, because it's such a high interest rate,
is more lax.
But it puts people in a worse position.
Much
worse. And I think and there is a few companies out there that allow you to take an advance on your pay.
I don't know. I've seen those. Bad idea.
For a monthly interest fee on your next month's pay. Now, what's interesting...
It's like gambling in a way if you think about it, because what happens is, once you're in there, and some people who are into gambling that sometimes you talk to, say, oh, I'm 3 grand down. As soon as I make that, I'll be, I'm going to stop. How long has it been? Oh, 8 years. Yeah. And 3 grand is a low number, by the way. Some of the figures I've heard. Much
astronomical.
Bigger. But they always look to make it back. Same with here, when I catch up with all my debts and I've paid everything off and then I'm going to get... But you're not. Because this is like a vacuum, mate. It sucks you in, and to get out, it's going to be very, very difficult. Yeah.
And the things with... So I looked into this, and at the extreme end, and this absolutely terrified me, but the company that I looked into will let you take out, as a loan, 75% of next month's salary. 75%. And they're charging you interest on that. You better believe it. Then the following month, if you do the same, you are now working for free. It is akin to indentured servitude. It is modern slavery. Because you'll never get out of that.
No.
You do it twice at 75%. You're stuck in that business for life, owing them your salary.
But they're getting rich, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, somebody else is getting rich. But you better believe it's not you. And you are just getting deeper into that hole. And deeper and deeper and deeper.
Stay away.
Yeah, absolutely stay away. Now, I know someone who started down that road and, thankfully, we managed to, help them out and get them out.
But I think it's always a problem, if you... And again, every situation is different, by the way. And somebody might call in and say, oh, I'm in this particular boat and you don't fully understand. So, and they'd be right in the sense that we don't understand every single situation because we've not been in every single situation. But
no, true.
Generally speaking, if you're taking a loan to meet your expenditure, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Like I said, right now, the cost of living crisis, everything else, understand people are going through difficulties.
There are difficulties.
Get that. We've got clients and people, family members, friends, etc., who are going through some similar challenges. But if you're doing that, you've got a problem. Just like if you're now, let's say you've got some debt to pay, your parents have left some inheritance, and they've, let's say, left you a watch, a couple of paintings, let's just say, okay, a few of the bits, maybe a property and some stocks and shares. And now you're selling those to meet your daily living expenditure. Bad idea. Because once you've sold all that stuff,
how are you going
how are you going to fund your stuff yourself going forward? B, once you've sold it, you'll probably never be able to get that back.
No.
That makes sense. So using debt to repay debt in a roundabout way, or obligations or costs, is a really bad idea. Like I said, sympathize with people who are going through that situation where they've got
100%.
no option. But generally speaking, quite a few people do it just as a matter of course, don't they? Because they're used to it, because they like the...
Well, debt's a way of life, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. They like the champagne caviar lifestyle, don't they?
Yeah. Champagne taste, beer money.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing that overall, things like that, I think, yes, stay away from if you can. If understand that there is always another way. Yeah.
If you look hard enough, yeah.
If you look hard enough.
It might not be as easy an option as some of the ones that present themselves.
Yeah, but there are other methods. There are other ways. And when you're looking at, how long it's going to take you to pay back, or, how deep into this rabbit hole are you going to get, just remember that if you can avoid getting into that rabbit hole in the first place, I mean, I was lucky, I know this, but one credit card, one loan, and, the loan lasted 5 years. It was for a car. I knew the exact amount I was paying each month. Didn't bother me. I knew I was getting charged for it. Fine.
But you had the discipline to...
But I had an education.
That. Yeah. But, I mean, just as a side note, for people who are struggling, there's Citizens Advice Bureau, Deadline, and there's other organizations you can reach out there who can help and assist you to get at that problem without getting into a deeper problem.
Yeah. And, I mean, you hear about all these rag to riches stories of people who were 50, 60, 70,000 pound in debt, and now they're multimillionaires. And you're hoping that if you get, if you invest in,
don't follow the path and get in debt first, and then hope that that's the first step to get to where they are. But there are people out there, and we've got clients, people we know who were in debt, and then they've gotten through that. 'Cause the lessons that they've learned and the difficulties and being in that place told them, I don't want to be here, and I'm going to do everything I can now to self-educate, work hard, and do what needs to be done to get out of this deep dark place.
To make sure that I'm never there again.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
they didn't make it worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's like the first class analogy, and I think it might have been you that told me this, or it might have been slightly before. But if you can afford to go fly first class just once, do it.
Absolutely.
Because you'll never want to fly economy again, and you will find ways to make enough money to justify paying first class again.
Or business class,
Or business class, yeah. Which
or even premium economy, by the way.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
So that's your payday loans, high interest credit cards, bad loans, bad debt, non-asset backed personal loans. Now that's a mouthful. So these are loans for, people take them out.
Paying for your next holiday.
Yeah. I want a holiday. I want to go. I haven't been on a holiday for so long. What, you mean since last year? Well, yeah. And I'm gonna.
Seems like ages. Seems like forever.
I'm going to take a loan out to go on holiday. Okay. Well, how much is that loan going to be? It's only going to be a small loan. Only £5,000. I don't know about you, but £5,000 is a lot of money, especially just for a holiday.
Especially when you haven't got it.
Yeah. Even more when you don't have it.
Yeah.
And that's, buying, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier about paying for things you can't justify or can't afford at the time. Unfortunately, and this is the antithesis of this consumer economy that we're in, is if you can't afford it, don't consume it. I know people want to go on holiday. You want to, relax. You want to, take some time back.
Instant gratification, my friend. People want stuff now. Life too short. I might not be here tomorrow, so I might as well enjoy it. And people have bought into that way of thinking, haven't they?
And that
nice strapline until you get into debt.
It's great. Great until.
Yeah. All works well in theory.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Do you need to go to Costa del Sol? Do you need to go to Hawaii? Do you need? And I use the word need. You know, I can take time off and be at home. It's nice to be somewhere different. Don't get me wrong. It absolutely is. I love a good holiday.
I think if you can afford it, yes. But if you're or if you're going to work hard, like we're talking about the first class, business class, premium economy, whatever, where you're going to either save or have an extra job or work hard and to earn a bonus or whatever you're going to do, or some kind of you go on some kind of a mission where you start selling stuff online or doing something which gets you an extra additional stream of income. Fine. If you're going to break your back and get into debt and borrow money from family, friends, or credit cards or some of the payday loans or whatever else, to satisfy that itch, okay, don't do it.
Let it itch.
It's a bad idea. Be patient.
I mean, I am one of those people that enjoys a holiday, but I don't go very often. I went on holiday, big holiday, to America in 2006. I didn't go on holiday again until 2014 when I went to New Zealand. I didn't go on holiday again since then until 2022 when I went to Spain.
Yeah.
You know, those are some big jumps in time between
Big breaks, yeah.
between going away. And did I enjoy those holidays? Yes, I did. Do I wish I could do them regularly every year, every other year? Yes, I do. Of course I do. You know, but it was 8 years, 2006, 2014.
And 8 again.
8 again, 2014, 2022.
So 2030 is the next one then.
2030 is the next one. I would like to go away sooner.
I think you'll go before then.
Well, I mean, I'm not on my own anymore, so, you know, it's not just my decision.
Yeah.
But those places that
When you ask your cat if she wants to go on holiday with you?
Yeah, of course I do.
Mm.
But the point is, I couldn't justify going every year because I couldn't afford it. So I saved up, and I went somewhere really nice. I went somewhere really big, and it was amazing.
Again, discipline, isn't it?
You know, but I couldn't go regularly, and that's what I say about, you know, understanding where your debt is.
Any other bad debts?
Other bad debts, yeah, unsecured debts, and you know, these include, you know, your credit cards, your personal loans, all the things like that. If there is more going out of your account than there is coming in, which I have met people like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
All the time.
that the money comes in, the rent goes out. Sometimes not
There's
even
more months left after the money, yeah.
Well, sometimes not even their bills go out before the credit card goes out and the loans go out, and then they've got nothing left. So they're now living on their credit card again, or, you know,
Downward spiral, isn't it?
just adding to the problem. And I personally don't think that the institutions within this country do enough to prevent that from happening to people. I think that there could be more done, and people need to... It should be harder to get a credit card. It should. It should be harder to get a loan. And I know people don't necessarily want to hear that, because... But
Just want ease of access, yeah.
yeah, but understand that it's not free money. A loan is not free money.
Far from it.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, and also to a small degree, overdrafts. You know, someone that I know...
Especially the ones that haven't been pre-agreed.
Yes, but someone that I know, they have a pre-agreed overdraft. And when I asked them, you know, we were discussing money and finances, and I said, you know, so how much do you have? Well, I've got about £400 left for the month. Right. Okay. What's the actual figure in your account? Oh, it's minus, you know, £300. So you've got no money left for the month. Oh no, because the overdraft is £700. I'm sorry, what?
Exactly, there you go.
You don't. No. There's a minus figure there.
You're making it worse, yeah.
There's a minus figure there. You don't have £400 at all. You've got nothing.
Yeah.
You're already in the minuses. So, you know, you should probably think about working to... But it's that mindset.
Yeah.
Because it's there, I can use it. And because it's there, I should use it.
And they will end up using it for different reasons.
You know.
Fancy a takeaway. Okay, there's £4 there. I'll use £20 or whatever the figure might be.
Yeah. And
Temptation.
the temptation is strong, and a lot of people do struggle with it.
And on some of those loans, people end up giving personal guarantees, and they can't keep up with repayment. And then if they own a house or something else, and you're putting it at risk. Is it worth it? No is the answer.
The answer is always
no.
And finally, another big one is depreciating assets. Things like luxury cars have a tendency to drop in value the second you drive them off the forecourt. Buying a brand new car drops in value the second you drive it off the forecourt.
So you think we can't buy a helicopter, yacht, or a plane then?
Not unless you can afford it.
Okay.
And
so lease it then?
Yes. And we'll get into that maybe on another show, lease options and leasing things and how to justify your expenditure and how to mitigate liabilities versus assets. We'll get into that on another show. But fundamentally on things like this is when you are a poor person can give the impression they are wealthy for a very short period of time. Wealthy people can look like they've got a low to medium income forever.
A long time, yeah. Yeah.
And that's generally what happens.
And that's why they're wealthy and smart.
And that's generally why they're increasing their wealth.
As in smart in the way that they go about stuff, as opposed to being smarter than the person who's not.
Yeah. People are often very interested in, got to have the Gucci bag, got to have the designer this, got to have the designer that.
Keeping it with the Joneses.
And it's unnecessary. I promise you it's unnecessary. No one's going to remember, oh, you're that man with the Armani suit. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Oh, you've got a really nice suit. Okay, yeah. Cost me 150 quid. As opposed to
£15, I want to go there.
Yeah. Cost me 150 quid versus 10 grand. It's exactly the same.
Thanks for listening to Wealth Made Simple. You can follow and contact Shaz on the Facebook pages Entrust Property Tax and The Profits Wizard. You can also find Shaz on LinkedIn, YouTube and Instagram. Alternatively, email him at shaz@aa-accountants.co.uk. Build your wealth by mastering money.